Hey, what's up, folks? Today is Wednesday. It's the end of the month of June, and today is a bit of a flashback for me in a couple of ways. A couple of ways. More than a year ago, I put up my first video on YouTube right here at this place at the marina in San Leandro, and that video was sitting in this car. I think I made a lot of promises about having a much bigger, better studio or something to that effect. Because it's the first time I'd actually done a video. As you can see, the studio has not been renovated. But in that video, Dawn is coming. I talked about some of my experiences coming up in the faith. And today, I'm thinking about Numbers, the book of Bamidbar, chapter 25, verse 10, where it starts the opening of the portion of the Torah named Pinchas. And it's funny because the second way that this place and or this day is a flashback is about 6 years ago, probably about 6 years ago. I, as a member of a Messianic congregation, I was called up for the first time ever to read from the Torah, from the Torah scroll, from a kosher Torah scroll. And it was one of the proudest days of my life. I was nervous. Um, who hasn't ever read the Bible before in front of their peers? But this was different for me in that I was reading from the actual words, uh, the actual unfiltered, uncut words of the Most High given to his people, written down on an animal's skin. And it's funny in a lot of ways because I didn't fully know what to expect, even though I had been exposed to uh, Hebraic, Jewish culture for the greater part of my life. I had never actually seen a kosher Torah scroll. So it's funny because when I was scheduled to read, the guy who was a good friend and brother of mine, Latino brother, he didn't think twice. He just found a slot in the schedule for me to read. And as it turns out, he picked the parasha known as Pinchas or Pinhas for me. Again, Numbers chapter 25, verse 10. And if you don't know what's ironic about it, okay, is that Pinchas was the son of Elazar, who was the son of Aharon, the Kohen Hagadol, the high priest. And Pinchas is a name that you hear often. In English, they say Phineas, right? If you have kids, they probably watch the show Phineas and Ferb or Phineas and Herb or something like that. But it's not a very common name. But it's very interesting in that Pinchas literally means dark-skinned, black-skinned. Okay? Pinchas. Some people assume that it means the mouth of a serpent. They get this, it's a reach. But it's because P, Nachash, Nachash is a serpent, right? But Nachash is spelled with a shin at the end and not a samech, as is the name Pinchas. But sometimes um, samech and shin can be sometimes interchanged. But it doesn't matter anyway. I believe that's an attempt to detract and take away from what the name actually means. Even with that, it doesn't work because even if Pinchas is associated with Nachash, Nechoshet means brass, burned metal. Okay, so either way, it's associated with darkness. But even greater than that, the Egyptian word panchazd, panchazd is a word that means Nubian. Nubian. Okay, so this is more than likely where it was picked up from. Go figure that. All right. Um, and I found it funny. I read the parasha when I was called up. I read it, and it wasn't until weeks later that I thought about it, and I brought it to his attention, and I said to him, my friend Francisco, who scheduled me to read, I said, "Bro, did you Did you know that Pinchas means dark skin, Nubian or black skin? And he was shocked. He didn't know. He didn't know. And we kind of laughed it off, kind of as a coincidence. Only at that time. Um, so yeah, I remember heart pounding in my chest when when my friend called my name. He said, Ya'ale David ben Shlomo, come up, David, son of Solomon. And he pronounced the blessing over me. Mishe berach avotenu Avraham Yitzchak veYaakov, Sarah Rivka Rachel veLeah, hu yevarech et David ben Shlomo, שעלה היום לכבוד המקום ולכבוד התורה ולכבוד השבת. הקדוש ברוך הוא ישמור אותו ואת כל משפחתו, וישלח ברכה והצלחה וכל מעשה ידיו עם כל ישראל אחיו ונאמר amen. Which means, may the God who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rahel, and Leah, bless David, son of Solomon, who's been called with reverence to the Torah and for the Shabbat. May the Holy One watch over him and his family, bringing blessings and success to all his worthy endeavors together with all of our fellow believers everywhere. Let us say amen. And yeah, it was very surreal. And the biggest shocker of the moment, right, was when he unrolled the scroll for the first time, and I can smell the scroll literally, because keep in mind, folks, a kosher scroll is written on lamb skin. Lamb skin, of course, an animal, kosher animal that was once alive. And even though it's been dead for a long time and the skin is being utilized, you can still smell, it's still pungent. The smell of the scroll is pungent. Also, this was being read from a scroll that was more than 100 years old, which we still have in the congregation today. And yeah, I just remember looking at the letters, the beautiful letters and the calligraphy on the scroll, and then being horrified. You might say horrified. Why horrified? Well, it was then that I realized that there were no vowel markings on a kosher scroll. No vowel markings. I had no idea that there was no vowel markings, but it's very good, or, it's a blessing for me that I have the type of memory that I have, because I had studied the reading in a book that was cantillated, and my memory is very good. The Most High has blessed me with a very good memory. If it wasn't for that, I would be a dead man. But I looked up at the people out in the seats in shock and horror, and then I had to catch myself and say, okay, let's just, remember what it was that we studied all week. So anywho, melanated Israel, ancient melanated Israel. Again, it's something that has always been there, that's been in front of us, but you don't know it's there, no matter how obvious it is, when you've always been led to believe that the book has nothing to do with you at all. And think about it. He was named Pinchas, right? Not because after years of being among a nomadic people who were traveling in a circle in the middle of the desert, that he somehow became touched with the sun over time. He was named Pinchas from birth, which means he came out, not just dark among a melanated people, but he came out very dark. He came out very dark, okay? So no olive madness here, no Middle Eastern madness here. He came out dark, and therefore he merited the name Pinchas. Are there other references? Of course, you guys all know this isn't anything new to most of you that are studied. Are there any other references to people whose complexion and appearance is made noticeable in the Bible? Sure. In Acts chapter 13, verse 1. Acts chapter 13, verse 1. I'll read verse 1 from you from the Hebrew translation of the New Testament. It says, Nevi'im umorim hayu bakihila asher be'Antiochia. So there were prophets and there were teachers in the Kehillah, or in the congregation that was in Antiochia or Antioch, right? Who was it that was among them? Barnabas, Shimon Hanikra Niger. Uh-oh, David, watch your mouth. What did you say? Shimon, Simon or Simeon, Hanikre, the one who is called Niger. So you have a brother that was both a prophet and a teacher, and he was numbered along with Barnabas, or Barnabas, and he was Shimon Hanikra Niger. So this Simon also had a nickname or surname, and they called him Niger. Okay? And the Latin word nigreos means black in the noun form, nigreo, but niger is the adjective form of nigreos. All right? So imagine, like me, I grew up in Texas, okay? Grew up in Texas, small town in Texas, Palestine, and then eventually moved on to Houston. But we all had, somebody was always named Mike or Michael. Mike or Michael. But then there was that one Michael that was blacker than the tires on your car. And we simply called him Black. We simply called him Black. Okay? Shimon or Simeon is a very popular Hebrew name. So you can best be assured that there were a lot of Simons, a lot of Simeons. Okay? They probably removed all doubt by calling him how he looked. Called him Niger. They called him Black. They called him Black. Anywho, so yeah, I stumbled through it. I didn't stumble through it, really. They actually said I did pretty good. I remember now. 6 years ago, at least, when I was called up to the Torah for parasha or portion Pinchas, and I read Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aharon HaKohen heshiv et chamati me'al bnei Israel. He quenched the fire of the Most High, and he made atonement for the people of Israel by being full of zeal and running a spear, a romach, a spear through the chests of those who had the wherewithal to commit sin, not only against the Most High, not only inside of the camp, but a few steps away from the door of the Ohel Moed, or the tent of meeting. All right. So he made atonement, and for this he was given Kuhunat Shalom. He was given the priesthood of peace as something that would be everlasting and forever and ever. So yeah, a brother stood in the gap, just as his father or his grandfather had done. Aaron the high priest, when the plague was spreading through, and Aaron stood in the gap. A picture of Messiah, of Aaron standing. The Torah literally says that Aaron stood between the plague and the people of Israel. He stood between them and death, literally. I made atonement. So that's it. I just wanted to mention that because, again, this is an anniversary of sorts, but it also brought to mind something important like this, melanated Israel in the Bible. And I think it's important to note. It's important to note. So with that, that's all. That's all I wanted to put up today, and give some of you probably a little something to think about, more clues to look for, and yeah, that's it. All right. So here at the marina, with the pigeons flopping all over the place and nice breeze coming off the bay, looking over towards San Francisco and San Francisco Airport. I can actually also watch the planes land here at Oakland International Airport, and a rare day off, and just enjoying a little bit of sun and flashing back a little bit. All right, in a good way, in a clean and a wholesome way. All right. With that said, folks, may the Most High bless you and keep you. May He lift His face upon you and show you mercy. May He give you His peace, His shalom. Look forward to seeing you guys all soon. Have a great, great week.